Welcome to The Last Generation, the podcast where lived experience meets lasting change. I'm your host, Donna Simmons, author of Ashes to Flame, Transforming Trauma into Purpose, also a survivor, advocate, and truth teller. Today's episode is about something deeply personal and often invisible to others. What it's like to navigate intimate relationships while living with complex PTSD. We will explore how complex PTSD and repetition compulsion show up as mistrust, hypervigilance, and emotional defensiveness. We'll talk about why love can feel unsafe and how true healing often begins within relationships, not outside of them. And as always, we'll share a real story from someone who's walked through this and found hope. Complex PTSD isn't just about what happened to us. It's about what happens inside of us, especially when we are trying to get close to someone. For many survivors of relational trauma, intimacy feels like walking into a fire, even with someone kind, even with someone safe. Why? Because the nervous system doesn't just forget. Growing up in environments where love was conditional or where boundaries were violated or where needs were ignored or punished, these experiences taught the body closeness is dangerous. So when love appears in adulthood, something paradoxical happens. You want it, you long for it, but you don't trust it. This is where repetition compulsion rears its head. Let's revisit the concept we discussed last episode. Repetition compulsion is the unconscious drive to recreate familiar trauma in an attempt to master or repair it. In relationships, this can look like attracting partners who are emotionally unavailable or controlling, sabotaging safe relationships out of fear of vulnerability, constantly scanning for betrayal, rejection, or abandonment. And here's the tragic irony. You may feel most drawn to the kind of love that hurt you and most threatened by the kind that's actually healthy. It's not a failure, it's a symptom, a trauma echo. Now let me introduce you to Maya. Maya is 35. She is smart, self-aware, and has done a ton of inner work. But every time she gets close to a partner, she was feeling overwhelmed by fear. She would pull away, lash out, or completely shut down emotionally. Her partner, Josh, was kind and attentive, but Maya never felt safe. She doubted his intentions, and she misinterpreted his tone. And often she would panic if he did not text her back immediately. One night after a small disagreement, Maya ended the relationship. But later she admitted, I didn't break up with Josh. I ran from the part of me that doesn't believe I deserve love. In therapy, Maya realized she wasn't reacting to Josh. She was reacting to her past. If you or someone you love is living with complex PTSD, here are some common ways it can manifest in relationships. Hypervigilance, where you're constantly watching for signs of danger, betrayal, or abandonment. Defensiveness, where you're reacting with anger or withdrawal when feeling misunderstood or vulnerable. Distrust, where you struggle to believe that others truly care, or you're always expecting the worst from people. Emotional withdrawal, where you numb out or dissociate during conflict or closeness. And control, trying to manage unpredictability by controlling situations, people, or outcomes. And I will tell you, all of these things are experiences that I have had in my current relationship, which is truly the most healthy relationship I've ever been in. These responses aren't irrational. They're survival strategies, but over time, they keep us locked in cycles of isolation and pain. And here's the truth that most trauma survivors don't hear enough. Relationships don't just trigger wounds, they can help heal them. A safe relationship can act like a mirror, reflecting back our fears, our defenses, and our longings. But more than that, it offers corrective experiences, moments where your fear meets compassion instead of criticism. When your shutdown meets patience, when your anger meets understanding, and when your silence meets curiosity, not punishment. Lawrence Heller writes, "It is through connection, not analysis, that the deepest healing happens. We are wounded in relationship, and we are healed in relationship."
Hi, I'm Mariel Hemingway, granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, actress and lifelong advocate for mental health and healing. Do you ever wonder how someone can rise from unimaginable trauma and turn it into a life of purpose? Do you find yourself searching for stories of resilience, proof that transformation is possible even in the face of overwhelming darkness? Then you need to read Donna Simmons' powerful memoir, Ashes to Flame. This book is not just a story, it's a raw, unfiltered journey through the depths of childhood trauma, emotional and physical abuse, and the systemic failures that perpetuate cycles of harm. Pick up Ashes to Flame today. You will not regret it.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
So how do we move forward when love feels unsafe? Well, we have to start with honest communication. Let your partner know what fear looks like for you and tell them what support feels like when you're triggered. Be open about your coping strategies and when they no longer serve you. And just as importantly, be open to hearing how your trauma affects them too. Healing doesn't mean perfection. It means staying present even when it's hard. Trust is built in micro moments. A deep breath instead of a fight, a soft word after defensiveness, a repair after rupture. Intimacy isn't just physical closeness, it's emotional courage. If you're in a relationship with someone who lives with complex PTSD, know this: your love won't heal them, but your presence can create the space where healing becomes possible. They may push you away. They may misread your tone. They may seem like they're always on edge or always looking for a way out. And that's not necessarily because they don't love you. It's because they're learning to feel safe again. And that can take time. Offer your partner what trauma stole: consistency, patience, gentle truth, and boundaries grounded in love, not punishment. Now, your role is not to be their therapist, but it is to be their anchor. So let's zoom out, because when we talk about complex PTSD, we're also talking about generational trauma. The way that our parents loved or failed to, the way that they coped, numbed, exploded, or even disappeared, the ways they were shaped by their own wounds and passed them down unknowingly. Generational trauma is not just inherited through DNA, it's inherited through dinner tables, through silence, through tone, through what was never said. And here's the radical truth: every time you speak instead of shutting down, every time you stay instead of sabotage, every time you love gently instead of control, you are breaking chains that go back generations. Relational healing doesn't just change your life. It reshapes the emotional DNA of everyone who comes after you. And that is how cycles end, not with perfection, but with one brave, conscious choice at a time. Love, real love, is not a feeling. It's a practice. For trauma survivors, love is a language we are learning for the first time. And sometimes we stumble. Sometimes we speak it with an accent, but we're trying, and that matters. If you're navigating complex PTSD in a relationship, whether you are the survivor or the partner, know this. You are not broken. You're learning, and healing is possible. Thank you for joining me on The Last Generation. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone you care about and stay tuned because next week I'll be sitting down with my husband to talk about some of our biggest arguments and how those relate to our individual inner wounds. We'll discuss how we've learned to fight right and with purpose instead of contempt. Join us for this likely intense but beautifully honest, open conversation. And until next time, speak gently, love honestly, and remember, closeness is not the enemy. Sometimes it's the medicine. You've been listening to The Last Generation, transforming trauma into purpose. For more resources, visit traumatopurpose.com. If this episode resonated with you, consider leaving a review and joining the community online. Subscribe, and let's transform together.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.